Tonight, it's Live with Vince Elliott.
Hey, Blackout.
Oh, it's you.
I don't think we feel too good. I'm feeling kind of woozy.
We feel fine. You're just mad because I didn't put more sugar in that oatmeal.
I think I'm suffering from sugar deficiency disorder.
Go ahead on with that.
Oh. I can't even... I don't have enough energy to even do my dances. I'm going down. I'm going down. I'm going down. Oh, the action. This is the big one. I'm dying. There's no coming back for me. There's no coming back. You know, once you're dead, you're done. That's it.
Little V? Man, are you alright?
I think you should call 911.
Okay, I'm calling 911. Hello, 911? Yeah, I need somebody over here quick. I don't know what's wrong with him. I think he's dying.
Well, what do we have here? Oh, my. This does not look good. Oh, hello.
Oh, hi.
I am Dr. Do Very Little, and I am here to evaluate the patient. I see that his skin is discolored, his eyes are discolored, and he's due for a haircut. Okay, anyway, I digress. What is going on with this patient? It appears that there's a deficiency of some kind. Did this man crave sugar?
Yeah, all the time.
I see. And did you give it to him?
No.
Oh, not very good, not very good. And when he craved sugar, did he do a little dance? Like this?
Yeah, exactly, like that.
I see. Okay, and you not give it to him?
No.
Okay. When he did not get your sugar, did he throw a fit, a tantrum?
Always.
Oh, I see. It's easy to see, anybody can tell. This man is suffering from sugar deficiency disorder. That's it.
Suffering from what?
Sugar deficiency disorder. It's a thing. I'm a doctor, I should know. This man would have survived with more sugar, but it's all too late for that now, all too late. He's a goner. Goodbye. Oh, cash at me.
Oh, I'm sorry, little buddy. Oh, I should have listened to you. Oh, what have I done? Oh, my. What's up, everybody? It's Vince Elliott. That's Little V. There's episodes of Little V on his YouTube page. Yes, Little V has his own YouTube page. All you got to do is look up Little V, and you'll see a few episodes of his shenanigans. That was part one of Breaking Quarantine. Maybe we'll play part two, next time we come on. Actually, I'm coming on tomorrow, and I'll tell you a little I'll tell you a little bit more about that later in the broadcast and who my guest is. In the meantime, welcome to the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. I felt compelled to come on today to address something that I mentioned in the last broadcast, and I wanted to add some clarity to that. And the topic today is Blackout Day 2020. So let's talk about that and get your thoughts on that. No guest today, so you guys get to be the guest and you get to chime in and tell me what you think about all these things. So I'm interested to hear your feedback, and we'll talk about, what are the expected results and if you plan to participate. And so I'd love to hear the variety of thoughts, input, comments, questions, ideas, those things of that nature. In the meantime, I want you to check in and let me know who you are, where you're from. Let me know you're in the comments, and let's get right into this thing. I want to preserve our time to really be able to dig deep into this topic. So if you're watching live, like I said, let me know by making comments into the comment section to the chat, and then also let me know where you're watching from. So now let me start off by, being transparent. When I initially heard about Blackout Day 2020, I probably could be classified as a typical hater. Even though I was not hating, I know it probably sounded like it, because my initial reaction was, what is one day of, not spending money with, anybody? What is that going to do to have a large impact and change for the future for the African American community? And, recognizing that could come across as saying something negative when people are trying to do something positive and take action. I began to recognize that through just, reflecting on it and having conversations with other people. And I wanted to kind of, adjust my position a little bit, just to say, first of all, I am definitely on board with unity in the community, if you want to say it like that, and trying to unify us to make positive change. And so I didn't, be honest with you, I didn't even know who organized it. Not that that would have made a difference, but I didn't even know who organized the Blackout Day. And I come to find out it's TI. And, I began to read up on it and things of that nature. So just in case you didn't know, Blackout Day 2020 is July 7th, 2020, where African Americans are protesting by not spending dollars anywhere for anything. Now, obviously, if you've got, medication or something like that you got to, pay for, or you have some need that, it's just totally unavoidable and you got to spend some money, that's understandable. What we're talking about, as far as I know, my understanding is, listen, I'm not buying anything online that I don't have to have that day. I'm not, going out to restaurants. We're not supporting any other businesses except for Black businesses. So let me be clear on that. So Blackout Day 2020, July 7th, and, people are signing up on a particular site, and I'll probably have to get that for you later because I'm not sure exactly what the site is. I think I may be able to pull it up. But I was reading an article by heavy.com, and it was talking about the blackout with TI, and that, making the points that, hey, we're spending $1.2 trillion a year as African Americans. And, just imagine, by the way, what that number can look like with even more people who may not be of African American, descent, who may join in with us. Now, we'll talk about this more in depth, but there are a lot of, Caucasian people, white people that are, joining in with us in the protest. Even they're fed up, So let me also give another disclaimer that everyone white is not racist. I think we know that. And so, there's some things that we need to be aware of and acknowledge while we are, expressing our displeasure, our anger, when we protest. I'm obviously, or not obviously, but I'm definitely against rioting and destruction not only of our community but any violence at all. It's particularly to other people, and then to our institutions, and so in our businesses. Now, a couple other points I want to make about the Blackout Day 2020 concerns that I have. And I don't think it's a necessary. These concerns aren't necessarily against Blackout 2020. I think the concerns and the things that I would say would be adding, saying, I think we need to do this in addition to. So I definitely don't want to be negative towards anybody that's trying to do something positive towards our cause. I'm on board. I plan to participate as well. And so I'm going to be, kind of discussing with you guys and offering suggestions and hearing your suggestions about what we can do to even take it to another level. I do hesitate to, kind of jump on the bandwagon with the term "it's a start." And so let me go there for a quick second. To say it's a start, I think is kind of a slight to our forefathers. They started. And they started, with boycotting, well, the one that sticks out the most for me is back in the 60s. And so when you say it's a start, I think we're past starting. When I saw the anger and the frustration and the violence and all that, I didn't walk away with the impression that people were ready to kind of throw some symbolic type of starting mentality, for lack of a better term, as opposed to, listen, we want change and we want change now. So I do think you got to do something, which I think that's what people are referring to when they say a start. But I don't want to, be disrespectful to Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and the people from back in the day who were doing, protesting and not spending money, having blackout days. They started. We've also had a lot of, other types of protests similar to this in between there. So it's not like, this is the first blackout day or last year was the first blackout day or anything like that. We've had several of them, and I'll share some of that information as I look through the article that I pulled up. So one of the questions that I have for you guys, hey Zeta and Reese, one of the questions that I have for you guys that are watching is, first of all, do you plan to participate in Blackout Day 2020? What are your thoughts, period, about Blackout Day 2020? In the spirit of, trying to create change, I submit to you that it's not one thing, it's a collection of things. So yeah, Blackout Day 2020, voting, protesting, all of these things. And I'm sure that there's more things that we can do. But the first thing, is to take some action, but to think clearly through what is a good plan of action and then have a unified front, a unified effort that involves something other than violence. So I want to hear from you guys in the chat. What do you think? What is what are your plans for joining in with Blackout Day 2020? And as you go ahead and put something in the comments, I'm going to say that I do have one word of caution. If you're going to participate in Blackout Day 2020, then let it be whatever you are going to spend that day. Don't go and spend it the next day. Don't spend it the day before, the week before, things of that nature, because, then you kind of canceled it out. If you're going to spend double the day after, the week after, or double the day before, the week before, what is the point? So Sylvester say one day is not enough. And that's kind of, where I was headed when I initially said, hey, Blackout Day 2020 is not having any long-term, impact. And I didn't, and again, I did kind of retract, how strongly I came across with that, because I did not want to demean the efforts of TI or anybody that, is looking to make positive change. I think anything we do is better than doing nothing. And so I'm on board with the Blackout Day 2020. But what I would like to see is, we continue that until we see some significant change, until we get some laws changed, just like they did with the Montgomery boycott of the bus. If you look at that history, they did that for 381 days. That's a year and 2.5 weeks. And the impact was so powerful that they, white people began attacking black people who were waiting for their taxis, because they did, not only did they not take the bus, but they arranged to taxi each other around with their own vehicles, or whatever type of transportation they had available, walked, what have you. So I look at that and say, wow, even when we weren't coming in, they weren't coming in sitting where they weren't supposed to sit, and they was just simply saying, okay, you don't want us to sit in your seats? Tell you what, we won't ride at all. And they got so angry that they couldn't force us to do what they wanted us to do, or our people to do, that they began beating them up and attacking them because they weren't riding a bus. So that lets you know that it was really getting to them. It was affecting their economy. And they did that for 381 days. And so, and then legislation was passed on their behalf, on the African Americans' behalf. I think we need something just as strong, when it as it relates to blackout days. And then I think, here's another thing. I think we have to think about what is our call to action? What is it that we want? If let's say, the racist powers that be, the oppressor, the government, however you want to word it or look at it, says, okay, you win, man. You got our attention. You have destroyed the system. The economic system is broken. We realize that this country is at a severe loss if African Americans aren't contributing. Okay, what do you want? What is our answer? Now, it's easy to say, well, we want, we want economic inclusion and equality. We want, education equality. We want this, and this. But how exactly does that look in legislation, in practicality? How does that look? So let's see what your comments are saying here. Okay, Sylvester says, I understand the cause and I will participate for sure. I think that we should do it multiple days through the month. All right. Cherie just simply says, yep. So that I guess that means she's agreeing to pretty much, kind of what I'm communicating here. So we need to really come together and have some dialogue about what it is that we're expecting and what we would like to see and how we would like to see it rolled out. I made the point, I was on another talk show the other day, and I made the point, they said, okay, well, you've clearly articulated the problem. What do you see as a solution? And my thought was, hey, our system is broken. Our economic and educational system primarily is broken. What we need to do is we need to have not only representation in these areas that run the economy and the government and the education system and the police force, we need to have some serious controlling, power, and ownership. So, if you really think about it, and this is probably not new news to many of you, but we don't own any hospitals. We own 38 banks out of 5,177 financial institutions. Let that sink in for a second, because our economy is, if you want to talk about naming one thing that is the pillar in our economy, it's financial institutions. They do the loans, they hold the money, they make the interest, they invest our money so they can make money, and all. So financial institutions are a huge part, and we have less than 7.5%. No, I take that back. I'm sorry. It's not 7.5%. It's 0.074%, just slightly less than 0.074%, which is basically, let's just call it less than 8/10. Or I'm sorry, I did it again, didn't about 800s, less than 1%. How about that? That's less than 1% of the financial institutions in the United States. I'm not mathing real good today. So when you look at hospitals, when you look at banks, when you look at travel, I'm not aware of a black-owned airline. If there is, please tell me, correct me, but I guarantee you, even if there is, the representation is probably less than the financial institutions. But why is it that if we are 13, 14% of the population, but our spending power, is far greater than the percentage of people that we have, why is it that we don't own anything? We don't own any grocery stores, by and large. I'm talking major chains, right? We don't own grocery stores in that way. Hospitals, transportation, we have very little control over how our education is funded, and in our urban cities. We don't have major input on the police force. Yeah, we got black police chiefs and things like that, but that's trickled down. I mean, it's still, being ran by, a higher level of, government. And so we need to have more of a say so. I'm not saying that we flipped the script totally and now black people are running everything, but you can only be oppressed by people who have authority over you. And so, yes, we have people in government, African Americans in government, and we do have some going on, but by and large, we still are subservient to our white counterparts. So let's see what you guys think. Hazel says, yes. What was Reese saying? She said, I'm definitely going to participate, and I agree it should be longer than just one day for at least 1 month. Well said. So let's talk more about this, situation. For a second, I want to, kind of talk about some of the things that we've seen with these riots. I was looking for a video clip that I had earlier, and you may have already seen it, but I can just tell you about it. There was a 31-year-old black male who was out on the streets when they were rioting. There was a 45-year-old, and he was explaining to him, listen, and a lot of you may have seen it because it's got by now it's over 11 million views. And he was saying, the one guy was ready to loot and all that type of thing. And the 31-year-old was yelling at the 45-year-old saying, this is what they want you to do. If you the president of the United States already said, if you loot, we shoot. We got to do something different. We got to think. We got to find a way, other than violence, because that's just setting us up for them to give a legitimate reason legally to shoot us, to take us out. And so there was a 16-year-old black male, and the 31-year-old, after he was talking to the 45-year-old and trying to calm him down, he went to the 16. He was explaining, said, listen, this guy's 16 years old. He's like explaining to him, this is not the way. This is not how we do it. We didn't get it right. I've been in protests and things like this before. You guys have to, you got to help us come up with another way, but violence is not the way. And it was very good to see him doing that, because it is really a setup or a reason for them to, violently take us out. Now, what's interesting is, and you may have seen this as well, is that there were situations where it was really suspect in terms of where the violence was coming from. So on one hand, you had white people who were in the streets with us, who were protesting, non-violently and, arm in arm with us and the whole thing. And in some cases, were in front of us, like lined up, a bunch of white people in front saying, you're not going to continue to do this to the African American, because, America is for everybody. And when you do it to them, you're doing it to us, because, this is America and this is not how it should be. Then you had some who were contributing to the violence, and they were spray painting, Black Lives Matter on buildings and things of that nature. And so I'm not sure if the people who were doing that were doing it because they felt like this is the way to get the message across and they were just as angry, or if they were people who were trying to make it look like black people were destroying the city. It could have been a combination of the two. What I do know is that the police reports, or the news reports, I should say, were coming back saying 80% of the people who were getting arrested were not from the particular city in which the protests or the violence was going on. It definitely was true in Detroit. I believe it was true for other cities. And so what they were saying is that be careful who comes among you, because some of these people are just anti-government people using this as an opportunity to, go against the government and let the black people take, the fall. And then some of these people were white supremacists, who again were trying to get black people in trouble, or black eye, or get them, hurt or thrown in jail, or things like that. So there's a lot going on, with this, and which is another reason I go back to the protest and say, or to the Blackout Day 2020 and say, yeah, that's great, that's good. We need to extend this, and one of the points that I made the other day was, hey, we just went 3 months without some of the things we thought we couldn't live without. Imagine if we did not go to the casinos and we did not play the lottery, and we, took our money out of the other banks and put them into the black-owned banks, and we didn't travel if we didn't have to, in terms of airlines and things of that nature. And so there's a way to fight back economically. I want to see what you guys have to say. Again, if you're joining us, put some comments in the chat rather, and say where you're from, and who you are, or make a comment, have a question. Go ahead and put that in the chat. Let's see what we say. Sylvester says, we need schools to teach financial freedom as a part of education curriculum in our schools. Yeah, I think that becomes a trickle down of, gaining that representation in the decision-making arenas, that I spoke of earlier. Once we get in those decision-making arenas, then we have the ability to say, okay, this is what we want taught in our schools, and maybe some of these things are being taught in the other schools, in areas where people don't look like us, but we can have some input, and not only input, but we can have actual control over that. I mean, let's take it a step further, where we have the financing to supply black ran schools, where it's like, we dictate, okay, that's African-American school, those African-American schools, they need X number of millions of dollars because they have to have updated computers, and they have to have teachers who are of high quality that can get paid well. And, the building needs repair, it needs to be up to code, and they need the latest technology and all those things. So I think, all of that comes with us being in a position of control. So you guys continue to put comments in. I do not have a guest tonight, so I'm heavily relying on you to have your comments and let's and your questions, and let's discuss those. In the meantime, I'm going to take just a quick moment. I'm not going to really call it a break, but just want you to take a listen to this. Hey everybody, Vince Elliott saying thank you for tuning in. Real quick, I wanted to invite you to become partners with us and contribute to our success. Our success is your success. One way that you can do that is by subscribing to our YouTube page, The Vince Elliott. Click on the notification so that you are notified when we go live or upload new content. Secondly, please share this broadcast with your family, friends, contacts, Craig and them, Cud and them, share with everybody. Lastly, you can contribute to the success of the broadcast with a financial contribution of only $1.25 a week, $5 a month, or $60 contribution for the year by using the Cash App information that's on the screen, $Live with Vince Elliott. So thank you for helping us to bring information, education, inspiration, motivation, and yes, a few laughs to the world. Oh. Thank you. That guy is silly. I don't know who that was, but yeah, I'm going to go to your comments here. Sylvester's commenting Again, he says today they took the protest to Troy on Big Beaver. So yeah, this thing is in Michigan where we are. They are they're hitting different cities. It's not just in Detroit. I heard that it was in Livonia. Now I'm hearing it's in Troy. And I heard that it may be somewhere else. I don't want to, contribute to, anything that may potentially go awry. Hopefully the protests are peaceful protests and not violent protests. So I heard that it was going to be in another area in Michigan other than Troy. And that, to my knowledge, I don't know at this point whether that took place or not. Just as a follow-up to what you just heard, I am allowing people or giving people an opportunity, I should say, and inviting you guys to become partners with the broadcast, as you heard, on the little break there, so that you can contribute to the success of this show. And we're going to be continuing to give out great information to educate people and to inspire and motivate people, with this journey. We're not always just going to be talking about COVID-19 or ways to deal with racism, which, right now we are, because this is the topic of the day. It's very crucial and important, and I just felt it was a responsible thing to address this right now. So yeah, I'm going to leave that up for you guys. Again, just as a reminder, you can do $1.25 a week, and was less than the cost of a 2-liter pop or something like that, and $5 a month, or a one-time $60 for the year contribution. Contributions are appreciated. We are for profit, so they are not tax deductible. However, we will be from time to time bringing on nonprofit organizations that we will be giving a portion of our proceeds to support those organizations in which we believe in. So look forward to that. So tomorrow I'm going to have on the show a gentleman who is with the Black Leaders of Detroit, and he goes by the name of I want to put his picture up first. There we go. Interesting conversation, and we probably will talk about the state of affairs and what's going on with that. So you guys are quiet on me. You're not saying much else. If you are joining us once again, go ahead and put something in the chat. Say hello. If you are watching the replay, then go ahead and type in the comments, watching replay. You too are still encouraged and welcome to become a partner with us in the contributions as well. So let's go ahead and move to the other part of this conversation. We're talking today about Blackout Day 2020. Number one, are you going to participate? Number two, I believe it's a positive thing, and I would like to see more of it, meaning can do more than just one day. I don't necessarily, kind of jump on the bandwagon of the notion that it's a start. I think, the start was done back in Martin Luther King's day, and I say we're continuing to do something we saw be successful, and I think we need to take it to another level. That's why I think we should continue and do it more than one day until something changes. They did it 381 days for the Montgomery boycott. And so here's the other thing that you have to understand. Let's say we do say, hey, we're going to roll this thing for a month, 2 months, 3 months, on and on. You have to understand something, that these police ain't playing. I mean that's not new news to you. I get that. But what I'm saying is that the level at what at which they are perpetuating the violence and murders on is the level we need to match in terms of our willingness to protest, sacrifice. I'm not talking about rioting. I'm talking about we need to match that intensity with what we do, meaning we need to do 3 months, 6 months, whatever it takes to bring about some legislative change and some real change in the community. So when you do that, I mean, that's like waging war. So understand something. When you wage war, there are going to be casualties. And I'm saying, yes, we have to shut the whole system down in order to make it work. So yes, that means that even those of us who are participating may be affected by that. You got to be willing to sacrifice. I have to be willing to sacrifice and know that by doing that, there's going to be some things that are going to be uncomfortable. I might lose a job. I might lose, the ability to be able to do something that would be good for me or my family. But when you look at the greater picture, what is the goal? What do you want to accomplish? If sitting out for 3 months, 6 months, a year is going to cripple a broken system, you need to break it and rebuild it. And we'll come back with a better system and we'll get employed and we'll have our housing and we'll do all of those things. But if we're not willing to sacrifice to get those things, then we're going to get more of the same. I think of a couple examples. When the Israelites got freed, a lot of them, were like, hey, we out here, and we don't know where our next meal is coming from, or we don't know where, the shelter is going to be. And they're like, listen, at least we knew where we were going to sleep and we knew we were going to get some meals. Maybe we should go back. Those people had a mentality that, you know what, I'm going to grade this thing on the curve. I'd rather get something, in terms of a meal and some, in water and knowing, I'm going to be around my family. Nobody's going to die off getting lost in the wilderness. I'd rather have some security in that than to sacrifice and fight and go for my freedom. If you think about, what we learned about slavery days, there were those who were like, hey, we need to rise up. We need to get out of here. We need to run, get away. And then there were those who they labeled as the house, well, not labeled, but they were literally the house Negroes who had life a little bit better. And they were like, hey, master giving me, good meals and he treat me good. And, I get to clean his car and drive his car. Now, before you get all excited and everything else, I'm not calling people house Negroes. What I'm talking about is a mentality that may be less than our best. I'm not saying that, you got stinking thinking you're a house Negro. Don't misquote me. What I'm saying is that I believe we can do more. I believe that if we're comfortable, because like I've said before, we got a couple cars, we got, I live in a nice neighborhood, we've got 401ks and we've got benefits and all these things, and we don't want to rock the boat for the greater cause. We're willing to do some things, but hey, when you start talking about breaking the economy, then that's going to impact us negatively. And I suggest, and I submit to you that that's what's necessary, because right now, the system that's in place, the system that, yes, we are doing better now than we were 50, 100, 200 years ago, that system is the system that's perpetuating the murders that we're facing today. That system is not holding police accountable in the way that they should. That system is not putting us in a position of economic strength. That system has us not owning anything. That system has us owning 38 financial institutions out of 5,177 financial institutions in the United States. That system has money going towards cancer research that's a whole nother conversation, cancer research that is going into the pockets of the wealthy, but none of us own the hospitals. And so I submit to you that we have to shut down the system until we can rebuild a system that works, because that's the only language that a racist understands. They're not moved by our, videos, talking about, hey, I'm just like you. You know, give me I just want the same things you want. Pleading with them doesn't work. There was a picture I saw today, and I was going to show it to you, but I thought, you know what, that's a little too disturbing, and I don't want to be a contributor to it spreading. But I tell you what was in the picture. The picture was of two seemingly teenage boys, and if I had to guess, they were brothers, and looked like one of them might have been 15 and the other might have been 13 or something like that. And they took a picture, white teenage boys, with one had his knee on the back of the other one or the neck of the other one, and the one on the ground face down, who had the knee on his back or neck, had his hands behind his back as if he was handcuffed. And they were both smiling, and one looked up at the camera who had his knee in the back and said, and the caption was, what is it called? The George Floyd challenge. And that was very disturbing to see that. It did not upset me in the way that you would think it did. What disturbed me was those boys did not come about that type of thinking on their own. Those boys, their parents may not have encouraged them or told them to do that, but they have implanted a thinking in them that would cause them to come up with that even on their own. And it's a very sad testament to where we are in America today. What are your thoughts? What are you saying? Sylvia Hughes, let's see. I agree we need to be educated and we need to shut down the system. Great comment. I can't hit that enough, that there's going to be casualties, of war, and that we need to understand the same way the sacrifices were made. I keep going back to Martin Luther King days. They made sacrifices that many of us, would be hard pressed to, make sacrifices for these days, but they did it for the greater good, and, they saw results from it. So, I think we take a page out of history, out of the playbook, and say, listen, we're going to have some casualties, and we're going to have to support one another. Okay, some people are losing jobs, but guess what? We're going to support the black businesses only. So that way, maybe as we support those black businesses, some of those people who lost those jobs with those corporations or those companies we're not supporting, now they have black businesses who are opening up, who are hiring and increasing their staff. Now they can get jobs with those. We have a lot of gifted, talented, creative, African-American, educated people who know how to do business. They're doing it. And there are those who, if we funded them, if we had the support for organizations like the one I'm going to be talking with tomorrow, Black Leaders Detroit, they are funding, giving grants to businesses so that they can be successful. So if we're supporting organizations like that, then the casualties will be minimal, and we'll be able to build our own Black Wall Street. We'll be able to pour money back into our community in such a way that we begin to build, and then we make significant change. What are your thoughts? Tell me where you are with this. What are you thinking? What is it that you've seen with the protests that stood out to you? And then particularly, also going back to the blackout, what are your thoughts about Blackout Day 2020? Some of you are saying, yes, I think we need to do it longer than, just, one day. I think I'll say it again, just for the record. I am not about, hating or, kind of being contrary or sowing discord to any efforts that are made towards the progression of the African American community. I think if you're going to do a Blackout Day 2020, great. What can we do to make it even better? How can we take it to another level? Yeah, let's do Blackout Day 2020, and then let's do Blackout Day 2020 the next day. And let's do Blackout Day 2020 the day after that. Let's keep this thing going, And then if they want to be on their knees, yeah, let's bring them to their knees in a different way, in a positive way, in a way that makes them say, okay, hey, you mean you literally are not going to buy lottery tickets? You literally are not going to go to the casino? Here's the thing. I read an article that said, listen, they said the casinos, the city, has been hit hard because the casinos have been shut down. The city can't survive without the casinos. My first thought was, what happened when we didn't have casinos? How was the city surviving then? But then my second thought was, if that's true, then what happens if we go 3 months after they open back up and we don't support the casinos? You see? And now, people will say, oh, well, if we do that, then that's going to cut into our city services and things like casualties of war. Because if the city's not making money, if the companies aren't making money, if the corporations aren't making money, guess what they're going to do? They're going to turn around and say, look, y'all need to do something because African Americans ain't playing. They serious. Y'all need to listen. Y'all better get whatever they asking for. It's reasonable. Y'all need to do whatever you need to do to get this economy back rolling because it's not their fault, it's y'all fault. And then they're going to be speaking out on our behalf. But as long as we got the mentality, I see they're doing a blackout and they're not going to the casino. So you know what the casino's going to do? They're going to loosen up and make more winners because they're going to try to attract people back. So I'm going to be one of the people that's going to be there. And come on, man. Same mentality with the lottery. Oh yeah, lottery when it's down. So they're going to do, and they probably will. They probably will crank out more winners than they would because they know that that's going to suck people right back in. So look, I'm trying to cut this thing off at 1 hour. We got about 8 minutes left. Kerry Mason, how are you, sir? He says, how might we educate ourselves in a more intentional way? Blacks have and spend money when we want. How do we repurpose our monies for these causes? Great question. I think I just addressed that maybe just before you came on when I said this is a war and they're real serious. When they get to the place that a white police officer will keep his knee on an African American's neck in the middle of the street in broad daylight with his hands in his pocket with a careless, callous look on his face and just look at you like, I'm going to do this till I murder him, and you can't do nothing about it. There's sometimes there's a positive motivation to negativity and negative images. I want you to let that image replay in your mind as you think about what you're going to do about it. And so to answer Kerry's question more directly, you stop doing these things that are giving millions of dollars a year. I think I read somewhere that the casinos were making over $500,000, like $600,000. I want to say a day. I could be wrong, but they were making some ridiculous amount of money per day collectively. I think it was over $600,000 per day collectively. In Detroit. And so imagine, and I keep harping on the casinos and the lottery because they take in a large sum of money that really doesn't go towards our community. Now, I know there's an argument, hey, listen, it's documented that the casino, they include a certain amount of revenue for this cause or that cause. But by and large, what is it doing to stop the police murders and brutality? What is it doing to give us ownership in a large way to be able to make change in our community? What is it doing to give our businesses more finances? What is it doing to stop redlining? I would say one of the things, as it comes to my mind, one of the things that I would say would be a demand, because we're no longer requesting, we need to be demanding. One of the things that would be a demand is that we want the same opportunity that you're giving when foreigners come to the country. 7 years, no taxes when we open a business. And all the assistance, are they really checking their credit when they come from a different country? I don't think so. I could be wrong about it. I don't know at all. But I know that they're getting a better break than what we're getting. So we want the same opportunity that they get, or we want the same opportunity as our Caucasian brothers and sisters are getting. And I don't want to hear about the credit, because guess what? You set us up for that. Yeah, we can take some responsibility, but you were a large contributor to why a lot of us have bad credit. When you take people from their land and you do all the things, and we already know what it is, so I won't take time to run it all down, but when you do all those things and you purposely make sure by captivity that they're not educated and know how our government and our United States system works, then you are responsible for us having bad habits, bad financial stewardship, because you didn't allow us to be taught. And so that was passed down generationally. And yeah, we can make the argument, well, this is a new day, all the information is available. But now you're talking, but now you got to break generational curses. And when you get into somebody's mind and when you get into people's, thinking patterns, it is very difficult to change that. Case in point, we still got people using the N-word. And I know there are people who got defenses for that and all that. But I just want you to pause for a second and think about something. Whether you use it or not, think about something. If I came or not me, but if someone came to your home from a different neighborhood and they did all the horrible things that were done to people who were enslaved back in the day, and they came and they said, not only are we going to rape you, beat you, murder you, do all these horrific things to you, but I'm going to call you ugly, stupid person. And you saw your wife and children get molested and all of these things. And while they were doing it, ugly, stupid person. What are you? You're an ugly, stupid person. What are you? You're an ugly, stupid person. And you saw this horrific thing happen, and you got your limbs hung and messed up, and your brothers and your cousins and everybody was lynched and all that. And they said, say it again. You're an ugly, stupid person. And then you get free. And then you say a term of endearment to my brother I love is I call him an ugly, stupid person. Let that sink in for a second. How much sense does that make? So what I'm saying to you is that they have indoctrinated, for lack of a better term, our thinking so bad that we will defend our right to call our brother and sister ugly, stupid person, because we've decided that I do it for different reasons. No, I submit to you that you have been, your mind has been tricked. That's the simplest way I can come with it. No way in the world would I call somebody that name after understanding that. So, getting down to the last couple of minutes. Beverly Troy, you say what? We definitely need to come together in solidarity to break the system inequality in our communities. Well said. And Carrie says, true. In addition, we need to work together, though. Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to understand that, one of the problems that I believe we have is that if we don't agree on everything, then I'm done with you. Oh man, you go your way, I go mine. That's why I said in the beginning, being transparent. Initially, when I heard about the Blackout Day, I was kind of against it because, I'm concerned that people are going to double down before, they're going to double down after. Please don't do that. If we're going to do a Blackout Day, then that's it. We're not spending no money that day. And you know what? I'm going to not spend more than I was going, to make up for that day. And so we need to have some unity to make sure that we are working together. We don't have to agree on everything to work together. Listen, there are other cultures that are great examples. And I don't want to call them out because I don't want to make it sound like, I'm saying something positive. But if you look at the Jewish community, they about getting their money. You think they agree on everything? Absolutely not. They don't agree on everything. So we just got to do a better job, folks. I think that, on one hand, you can argue that, it's oppression and it definitely is. On the other hand, or not even on the other hand, in addition to that, we can take control. Voting is the system of the day, and I don't think we should stop doing that. I just don't think solely by itself it's going to change the situation. Protesting, it is a viable act that has contributed to change. I don't think that alone, even coupled with voting, is going to get it done. I think economic, empowerment, or I'm sorry, that's the wrong word. The Blackout Day 2020, things like that, the economic impact of holding our money back, not spending that $1.2 trillion a year is going to have a significant impact along with the voting and the protest. And I think that's something that we need to be intentional about doing even beyond Blackout Day 2020. And then also going about saying, this is what we want to see as a result, having some demands that are going to change that. So you guys get your last comments in. And listen, I'm going to, for those of you who came on late, I'm going to just play this real quick before we close out so that you understand how we keep this show going. I'm going to have a guest on tomorrow. Then I'm going to come back on Friday unless I feel led to come on again spontaneously like I did today. And I'm going to have someone else on. I'll announce it after I confirm it tomorrow. But we will have Dwan Dandridge on tomorrow, which is Tuesday, June 2nd. And we will have a guest on Friday as well. In the meantime, for those who came on late, check this out. Hey everybody, Vince Elliott saying thank you for tuning in. Real quick, I wanted to invite you to become partners with us and contribute to our success. Our success is your success. One way that you can do that is by subscribing to our YouTube page, The Vince Elliott. Click on the notification so that you are notified when we go live or upload new content. Secondly, please share this broadcast with your family, friends, contacts, Craig and them, Cud and them, share with everybody. Lastly, you can contribute to the success of the broadcast with a financial contribution of only $1.25 a week, $5 a month, or $60 contribution for the year by using the Cash App information that's on the screen, $Live with Vince Elliott. So thank you for helping us to bring information, education, inspiration, motivation, and yes, a few laughs to the world. Oh. Thank you. Well, that's all the time we have. Last closing comments. Let's see. Lori Sanders, how you doing? She says, we have to unlearn all the mess that has brainwashed our thinking. I agree. That is exactly what we need to do. If you have any additional questions, concerns, comments, you can go to thevinceelliott@gmail.com. Send me an email. We'd love to hear from you. And then join us tomorrow at 8 p.m. when my guest is Dwan Dandridge of Black Leaders Detroit. I'm going to be talking about some great things that they are doing. And in the meantime, I appreciate you. Thank you. Remember, we only can do this, give you information, education, inspiration, and motivation, and yes, some laughs, if we can continue with the financial support. And that, quite simply, was just explained. So that is it. That is all I have. You guys have anything else? If you're watching from the replay, go ahead and put watching from the replay in the comments. And until next time, I am out.